Happy April Fool's Day. I'm Walt Dartland, Executive Director of the Consumer Federation of the Southeast. I'm here today for our annual April Fool's Day Hall of Shame, calling out the special interests that are playing Florida consumers for fools. But the joke's on them, because today we're going to pull back the curtain on these crazy 8 issues. Our first joker goes to the Florida Medical Association. Guess what they're doing? They're pushing legislation to raise the cost of medical care for all of us. There's a sneaky bill in the legislature that's going to change the way consumers can pay for their services. Let's take a look how this works. There are PPO doctors who are in-network doctors, and there are out-of-network doctors who don't belong to the PPO. Now, what this bill will do is a check will be sent to the out-of-network doctor, not your PPO doctor. And then when he gets the check and his charges are substantially higher than your PPO doctor, which they probably will be, then the difference is going to be your responsibility. Not only that, but guess what? They could sue you. Now, this is not good in an economy where employers right now are trying to cut down on medical costs. They're eliminating medical coverage. I would suggest to the legislature, take a look at this bill. There is a better way of handling it to protect the consumer, protect the doctors, and protect the whole PPO system. Our second April Fool's joker goes to the tobacco companies. Now, Florida could raise approximately $1 billion in new revenue. Again, that's a billion with a B. If they would do 2 things. If they would raise this crazy low tax that they have now on tobacco, and if they would close a loophole that allows off-brand cigarettes and tobacco companies to avoid paying their fair share. Now, it seems to me that these policies are really a no-brainer. And now I have a special joker for the Docel Tobacco Company. Now, this cigarette company styles itself as a mom and pop operation, just like your little local grocery store. However, when you look behind the facts, it's the 3rd largest seller of cigarettes in Florida, with $100 million in annual revenues. Our next joker, number 3 on our list, goes to Florida's big health insurers who are trying to cut costs by switching patients from drugs that your doctors prescribe to less expensive drugs. Sounds good, doesn't it? Even if those drugs are not designed to treat the same illness? Come on, how do they do it? Wordplay. Now pay attention. When insurance companies use these words such as incentivized, therapeutic substitution, therapeutic switching, generic alternative, and generic equivalent, it means that some company is making a lot of crazy money at your expense. They're baiting and switching you from what helps you take care of your illness to a drug that may have completely different side effects. I got to give congratulations to 2 people in the legislature, Senator Mike Fasano and Representative Alan Hayes, for sponsoring legislation to protect consumers from this terribly bad practice. Our next joker goes to Florida's phone companies, who are pushing for legislation under the friendly sounding but misleading name called the Consumer Choice and Protection Act. Now be careful, because if you listen to what's happening, you'll probably call it the Utilities Choice and Protection Act. Take off the friendly mask that you see on this legislation, you get a real frowny face. You know what's going to happen? The Public Service Commission will lose oversight over your phone service to a great extent. And not only will they lose oversight in terms of the rates that you'll be able to pay, but they'll lose oversight on the quality of service. Think about that, quality of service. PSC protects you right now. They won't protect you if this bill passes. Okay, we're now halfway through our Crazy 8 Hall of Shame. Go to our website, www.consumerfederationsc.com, And that'll keep you up to date on the latest news affecting Florida consumers, and we'll cover some of these issues that we've been talking about in more detail. Joker number 5 goes to credit card companies. Now, this is a tough economy. So, many of us consumers fall behind on our bill here or there, but we pay our credit card bill religiously. But have you heard of universal default? Remember that word, universal default. So you're a little bit late on some other payment like your rent or maybe your utility bill, and you fell behind on that. Do you know what happens? The credit card company, under universal default, can raise your rates to 20, 25, 29%, whatever they want to do at their whim, and you have no recourse. So I want to give special thanks to Senator Charlie Justice and Representative Maria Lorch Sachs for pushing legislation that would stop this practice. Our next joker in the ship of fools is going to be the Florida utility companies, who have foolishly failed to invest in natural gas storage to protect Florida energy system and us, the consumers, in an emergency. Now, Florida utility companies are overwhelmingly dependent on 2 pipelines that bring gas into the state of Florida. Now, if a big hurricane blows, like that's not going to happen, but also think Hurricane Andrew, we could be dark for what, days, weeks, if we didn't have a strategic supply of natural gas to depend on that wasn't located up in Katrina country or in Mississippi or Alabama. But so far, guess what? Utility companies have said, nah, we don't want to do that. For these shocking jokers, I would suggest that a light bulb goes up in their heads and gives them the bright idea that maybe it is a good idea to keep natural gas storage here in Florida close to where we would need it. And this one goes to auto insurance companies. Now, you've probably heard the word redlining. That just simply means that you can't take a neighborhood by zip code or something else and say, we're going to charge you a special rate, because redlining affects certain neighborhoods, and you may not have any problems with your auto insurance, but because you're in that area, you simply are going to have to pay more. Well, redlining has pretty much been outlawed in our state, thanks to insurance commissioners in the past. But the companies have come up with another idea, very clever. They have said, let's use your credit score. Wow, that's a great idea. That doesn't affect low-income people at all, does it? April Fool's Day, it's going to affect low-income people. And guess who else is going to affect? Well, what about your credit rating has dropped because of the economy? I mean, market's down 50%. People are getting laid off. Imagine, 10% laid off people out of work in the state of Florida. Those 10% of people, their credit rating could be down. Guess what? We can take care of that. The companies will raise your insurance rates. April Fool's Day. Well, we're down to our last joker. Here we are. Payday loan companies. Ever hear of those? You see them all over the place. They pay consumers advances on your paychecks. And that sounds okay, except that you have to check what the interest rates are. There is a bill pending in Congress right now that would allow payday loan companies to collect, hold your seats, this is a real super April Fool's joke, 390% annual percentage rate, APR, for 2-week loans, and if that's not bad enough, 780% APR for 1-week loans. A big joker to anybody in Congress who thinks it's fair to charge interest rates that would make loan sharkers blush. This practice has to be stopped. This concludes our annual April Fool's Day Jokers in our Crazy 8 Hall of Shame.